The colony ship Eternal Dawn moved slowly through the darkness of space. It carried 2,000 human settlers to a new world. Among them were 847 children who laughed and played in the ship's gardens. Not knowing that their lives were about to change forever, Admiral Kang Tae stood on the bridge and watched the stars. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. His daughter Yuna, only 8 years old, was somewhere below, probably reading stories with the other children. Tae smiled at the thought. This was supposed to be a peaceful journey. Humanity had been peaceful for 15,000 years. The galaxy had many species. Some were tall and covered in scales. Others had forearms or glowing skin. Humanity had joined them long ago and became members of the Galactic Council. For thousands of years, humans traded goods, shared medicine, and helped other species. They never started wars. They never built weapons. The other species looked at humans and saw soft, gentle creatures who posed no threat. Tae's communication officer suddenly sat up straight. Her name was Shin Myra, a young woman with sharp eyes. "Admiral, we have ships approaching. Many ships." Tae walked to her station and looked at the screen. His heart grew cold. 20 large warships were coming toward them. They belonged to the Venari, one of the most powerful species in the Council. Their ships were black and covered with weapons. "They are hailing us," Mira said. "Put them through." Face appeared on the main screen. It belonged to High Commander Velos of the Venari. He had gray skin, 4 yellow eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He looked at Tae the way a predator looks at prey. "Human vessel," Velos said. "You will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is not a request." Tae kept his voice calm. "High Commander, we are a civilian ship carrying families to a new colony. We have done nothing wrong. On what authority do you stop us?" Velos made a sound like laughter. "The Galactic Council has passed Article 7742. Human genetic material has been declared a shared resource. Your children will be redistributed across the galaxy for the benefit of all species." The bridge went silent. Tae felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. "You cannot be serious. You are talking about taking our children." "I am very serious, Admiral. Human DNA is valuable. Your species heals quickly, lives long, and adapts to any environment. Other species want these traits. The Council has decided that human children will be raised on different worlds and bred with other populations. This is kidnapping. This is slavery. The Council cannot do this. The Council can do whatever the Council votes to do," Velos replied. "You have no weapons. You have no military. You have been peaceful for so long that you have forgotten how to fight. What exactly do you plan to do about it?" Tae had no answer. The Eternal Dawn had no guns, no shields, nothing. Humanity had given up such things long ago. They trusted the galaxy to be civilized. The Venari soldiers came aboard 1 hour later. They wore black armor and carried weapons that could burn through steel. They moved through the ship with cold efficiency, going room by room, deck by deck. Tae followed them. Begging, arguing, threatening. None of it mattered. The soldiers did not even look at him. The screaming started in the family quarters. Parents held their children and refused to let go. The soldiers simply pulled harder. Mothers were thrown to the ground. Fathers who fought back were beaten until they stopped moving. Children cried and reached for their parents as armored. Hands dragged them away. Tae found his daughter in the garden where she liked to read. Yuna was hiding behind a tree, her small body shaking with fear. When she saw her father, she ran to him.
"Daddy, what is happening?"
"Why are those scary people here?" Tae held her tight. "It is going to be okay, Yuna. Daddy will not let anyone hurt you." But he was lying, and some part of him knew it. 3 soldiers appeared at the garden entrance. They walked toward Tae and his daughter with slow, certain steps. "Give us the child," one of them said. "No." Tae stood in front of Yuna. "I am an admiral of the Human Federation. You cannot do this. Your rank means nothing. The Council has decided. Step aside, or we will move you." Tae did not step aside, so they moved him. One soldier hit him across the face with an armored fist. Tay fell to the ground, blood pouring from his nose. He tried to get up, but a boot pressed down on his back, pinning him to the floor. "Daddy!" Yuna screamed as they grabbed her. "Daddy, help me, please." Tay reached for her, his fingers stretching across the cold metal floor. But she was already being carried away. Her screams echoed through the corridor, growing fainter and fainter until they disappeared completely when the Venari finally left. They took all 847 children with them. The eternal dawn drifted in space, filled with broken parents and empty rooms. Toys lay scattered on floors. Beds were still warm from small bodies that would never return to them. Vel sent one final message before his fleet jumped away. "The Council thanks you for your cooperation. Compliance ensures your continued membership in Galactic Society. We trust there will be no problems." Admiral Kongte stood alone on the bridge. His face was swollen and covered in dried blood. His hands would not stop shaking. Around him, he could hear parents crying, screaming. Praying to gods who had not answered, he thought about 15,000 years of peace. He thought about all the times humanity had chosen kindness over strength. He thought about his daughter's face as they dragged her away. The galaxy believed humans were soft. They believed humans had forgotten violence. They believed that because humans chose not to fight, they could not fight. Tay opened a communication channel to Earth. His voice was steady now, cold as the space between stars. "This is Admiral Kongte of the Eternal Dawn. The Council has taken our children. All of them. Tell the President. Tell everyone." He paused and looked out at the darkness where his daughter had vanished. "Tell them it is time to remember who we are." The news spread across human space in less than one day. Every planet, every station, every ship heard what the Council had done. Parents held their own children tighter that night. Some people cried. Others screamed in anger. But most went very, very quiet. On Earth, in a city called Seoul, President Park Soo stood before the leaders of the United Human Federation. She was a small woman with white hair and a face that rarely showed emotion. But today her eyes burned with something dark and ancient. "They took 847 children from the Eternal Dawn," she said. Her voice did not shake. "Reports are coming in from other ships and colonies. The total number is now over 12,000 children. The Council is calling it redistribution. We call it what it is: war." The room erupted in shouting. Some leaders demanded immediate attack. Others worried about the consequences. Humanity had no military, no weapons, no way to fight back. Or so they believed. President Park raised her hand, and silence fell. "For 15,000 years, we showed the galaxy our peaceful face. We smiled. We traded. We helped. And they looked at us and saw weakness. They were wrong." Deep beneath the surface of the moon, a man named Han Jin walked through corridors that had not seen light in 12,000 years. He was the director of special projects, a position that officially did not exist. His footsteps echoed against walls made of metal so thick that nothing could break through them. Jin stopped before a massive door. It was covered in warning symbols and sealed with locks that required his blood, his voice, and his eyes scanned to open. He provided all three. The door groaned and slowly swung inward. Behind it lay Project Lazarus, rows upon rows of warships stretched into the darkness, their hulls black as night. They were beautiful in a terrible way, designed only for destruction. Jin counted 50 in the first chamber alone. There were 20 more chambers just like this one. "My God," whispered his assistant, a young woman named Osira. "Oh, how long have these been here?" "Since before we joined the Council," Jin replied. "Our ancestors were not stupid. They knew that peace requires the ability to make war. They built these ships, hid them away, and hoped they would never be needed." Jin walked to the nearest ship and placed his hand on its cold surface. The metal hummed beneath his fingers, recognizing human touch after so many years. "Wake them up," he ordered. "Wake them all up." On Mars, in a research station that floated in orbit, Dr. Chonari received a message marked with the highest security clearance. She was 73 years old, with thin hands and tired eyes. She had spent her entire life studying weapons that existed only in theory. She read the message 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she walked to a vault that she had prayed she would never have to open. Inside were the void engines. Nari had only seen pictures of what these weapons could do. They did not explode or burn. They simply erased. Stars, planets, entire systems could be swallowed by darkness. Humanity's ancestors had created them in a time of desperation and sealed them away when they realized how terrible they were. Nari's hands trembled as she began the activation sequence. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Forgive us," she whispered to no one. "Forgive us for what we are about to do." Across human space, other secrets were being revealed. In hidden places on every world, families opened locked rooms and underground shelters. Inside were weapons, armor, and training manuals passed down through generations. They were called the Quiet Keepers. General Yunde led them. He was an old soldier from a family that had been soldiers since 4 humans left Earth for 15,000 years. His ancestors had kept the warrior traditions alive, training in secret, waiting for the day when humanity would need them again. That day had come, in a hidden valley on Earth. Day stood before 50,000 warriors. They wore no uniforms, carried no flags. Some were young, barely adults. Others were old, with gray hair and scarred hands. But all of them had fire in their eyes. "Our children have been taken," Day said, his voice carrying across the valley. "The galaxy thinks we are soft. They think 15,000 years of peace means we have forgotten how to fight." He drew a sword from his belt. It was old, older than space travel, older than electricity. It had belonged to his family for 3,000 years. Our ancestors conquered nations with weapons like this. They survived wars, plagues, and disasters that would have destroyed any other species. They did not do this because they were peaceful. They did it because they were strong. Day raised the sword above his head. The galaxy wanted to see what humans truly are. "Let us show them," the warriors cheered, their voices shaking the mountains around them. Within 1 week, their numbers would grow to 20 million. Within 1 month, 100 million. Every human who could fight would fight. On the eternal dawn, Admiral Kong Tae received word that rescue operations were being planned. Ships were being prepared. Soldiers were being gathered. The entire human species was waking up from a very long sleep. He stood on the bridge where his daughter had been taken from him. The blood was still on the floor. He had not allowed anyone to clean it. A message arrived from President Park herself. It was short and simple. "Admiral Tae, you will lead the First Fleet. Your mission is to find your daughter and every other child they took. You have full authority to do whatever is necessary. No rules, no limits. Bring our children home." Tae read the message and felt something change inside him. The gentle man who had commanded a colony ship was gone. In his place stood something older, something that humanity had tried to bury for thousands of years. He opened communications to his crew. "This is Admiral Kong Tae. We are no longer a colony ship. We are now the flagship of the First Vengeance Fleet. Prepare for war." Around him, his crew responded with a single word spoken together like a prayer. Yes, the galaxy had made a terrible mistake, and humanity was about to remind them why their ancestors had feared the dark. The Venari homeworld had 3 suns. The people there had never known true darkness. They built great cities of glass and metal that sparkled under constant light. They believed they were safe. They believed they were powerful. They were wrong. Commander Li Wu dropped from the night sky like a ghost. His team of 12 soldiers fell with him, their black armor making no sound. The void engines had done their work. Where 3 suns once burned, there was now only emptiness. The Venari looked up at their dark sky and screamed in terror. Wu landed on the roof of a research facility in the capital city. Intelligence said human children were being held inside. Scientists were studying their DNA, preparing them for experiments. Wu felt nothing but cold anger as he cut through the roof with his plasma blade. Team 2, take the east entrance, he whispered into his communicator. Team 3, the west. No one leaves this building. His soldiers moved like shadows. The Venari guards never saw them coming. One moment they were standing at their posts, the next moment they were dead. Their throats cut before they could make a sound. Wu reached the main laboratory in less than 5 minutes. The door was thick metal, designed to stop explosions. He placed a small device on the lock and stepped back. The device made a soft humming sound, and the door simply fell apart. Its molecules separated by human technology that the galaxy had never seen. Inside, he found them. 43 human children lay on metal tables. They were connected to machines by tubes and wires. Some were awake, their eyes wide with fear. Others were unconscious, their small bodies pale and thin. In the corner, 5 Venari scientists huddled together, their 4 eyes full of terror. One of the scientists stepped forward, his hands raised. Please, we surrender. We were only following orders. The council told us to study them. We did not hurt them badly. Please, show mercy. Wu looked at the children on the tables. He saw the marks on their skin where needles had been pushed in. He saw the scars from surgeries. He saw the fear in their eyes. Fear that would take years to heal. He had received very specific orders about what to do with anyone who touched human children. No, he said. When Wu and his team left the facility 20 minutes later, they carried all 43 children in their arms. Behind them, the building burned. No Venari inside had survived. Across the galaxy, similar operations were happening at the same time. Humanity had spent weeks gathering intelligence, finding every location where children were being held. Now they struck everywhere at once, giving the council no time to respond. Captain Moon Hannah led her team into the Kishari Collective, a group of species known for their genetic engineering. The Kishari had taken 112 human children for a breeding program. They planned to create hybrid species using human DNA. Hannah found the children in underground chambers, locked in small cells like animals. Some of the older ones tried to protect the younger ones, standing in front of them with small fists raised. They had been taught to fear adults. It is okay, Hannah said softly, kneeling down to their level. I am human, like you. I came to take you home. A little boy, no more than 6 years old, looked at her with suspicious eyes. The tall one said no one was coming. They said humans were too weak to fight. Hannah smiled, but her eyes were cold. The tall ones were wrong. Her soldiers escorted the children to safety while Hannah stayed behind to deal with the Kishari leadership. The galaxy would later learn that the Kishari Collective lost 90% of its ruling council in one night. The survivors fled to remote worlds and never returned in the Outer Rim. Far from civilized space, Lieutenant Biko hunted alone. He had received information that 67 children were being transported to a slave market run by criminals. The convoy had 12 armed ships and over 200 guards. Ho had 1 small fighter and himself. He attacked at the edge of an asteroid field, using the rocks as cover. His ship danced between the enemy vessels, too fast to hit, too skilled to catch. One by one, the escort ships exploded into fire and metal. When only the transport remained, Ho boarded it alone. The guards inside thought they could stop him. They were wrong. Ho moved through the ship like a storm, his weapons never missing, his body never stopping. He had trained for this his entire life, waiting for a moment that he hoped would never come. When he reached the cargo hold where the children were kept, he found them chained together, crying and afraid. Ho knelt beside them and began breaking their chains with gentle hands. Do not be scared, he said. I am taking you home now. A small girl grabbed his arm. Are you an angel? Ho looked at her dirt-covered face and felt tears in his eyes for the first time in years. No, he said. I am just a soldier who came to bring you back to your family. Within 3 months, humanity recovered over 10,000 children. Each rescue mission sent a message to the galaxy. The humans were not soft. They were not weak. They were hunters. They would not stop until every child was found. Hi, Commander Velos of the Venari sent desperate messages to the council. We have made a terrible mistake, he said. These are not the humans we knew. Something has changed. Something has awakened. The council did not listen. They believed that humanity's attacks were desperate acts that would soon end. They sent more ships to stop the human rescue teams. Those ships never returned. Admiral Kongte stood on the bridge of his warship, reading reports from across the galaxy. His fleet had destroyed over 300 enemy vessels. They had freed thousands of children. But his daughter Yuna was still missing. He looked out at the stars, his face hard as stone. "I am coming, Yuna," he whispered. "No matter how long it takes, no matter what I have to destroy, I am coming." The hunt continued, and humanity would not rest until it was finished. The council chamber on Nexus Prime was the largest building in the galaxy. It had stood for 40,000 years, surviving wars and disasters that destroyed entire civilizations. Representatives of 200 species met there to decide the fate of worlds. They believed it was untouchable. Admiral Kongte stood before its massive doors with an army at his back. The battle for Nexus Prime had lasted only 3 hours. Human warships, black and silent, had appeared without warning in orbit. The defense fleet, the largest in the galaxy, had tried to stop them. Now the remains of that fleet drifted through space, broken and burning. "Open the doors," Tay ordered. His soldiers moved forward with heavy weapons. The ancient doors, built to resist any attack, held for less than 1 minute. They fell inward with a sound like thunder, revealing the chamber beyond. Inside, representatives of every species in the galaxy waited. Some sat frozen in their seats, too afraid to move. Others tried to run, only to find human soldiers blocking every exit. High Commander Velos of the Venari stood at the center, his 4 eyes wide with terror. Tay walked through the chamber slowly, his boots echoing against the marble floor. Behind him came his daughter Yuna, finally rescued after months of searching. She was thin and pale, with dark circles under her eyes, but she was alive. She held her father's hand and did not let go. "For 15,000 years, Tay said, his voice filling the vast chamber. "Humanity was your faithful partner. We joined your council. We followed your laws. We shared our knowledge, our medicine, our art. We asked only for peace." He stopped before the raised platform where the council leaders sat. They shrank back from him like animals facing a predator. "And you repaid us by stealing our children." A Kashari diplomat tried to speak. "Admiral, please understand. The vote was legal. Article 7742 was passed according to proper procedures. You never meant to get caught, Tay," cut him off. "You never meant for us to fight back. You looked at humanity and saw soft creatures who had forgotten how to make war." He turned to face the entire chamber, raising his voice so every species could hear. "You were wrong." A holographic display appeared in the air above the chamber. It showed images of human children, some healthy and smiling, now safe at home. Others were thin and scarred, recovering in hospitals. And then came the final images. Children who had not survived, small bodies that would never grow up, faces frozen forever in death. 2,847, Tay said quietly. "That is how many of our children died because of your law. Some died in experiments. Some died from neglect. Some died because they lost hope." The number hung in the air, burning red. The representatives of 200 species could not look away. President Park Sue appeared on the main screen, her face calm and cold. She addressed the council from Earth, speaking for all of humanity. "You wanted human genetics. You wanted our ability to adapt, to survive, to grow stronger. But you never understood what makes us truly dangerous. It is not our bodies. It is our hearts." She leaned forward, her eyes like ice. "We love our children more than we love peace. We love them more than we love our own lives. We love them more than we fear death. And now you know what happens when you threaten what we love?" The Venari ambassador Velos fell to his knees. "Please," he begged. "We can fix this. We can return the remaining children. We can pay compensation. Whatever you want, we will give it," as Park Sue replied. You will, but not because you want to, because you have no choice. She listed humanity's demands. Every species that voted for Article 7742 would pay reparations money, resources, technology. The amounts were staggering. Some species would need centuries to pay their debt. Every individual who participated in harming human children would face human justice. There would be no exceptions, no mercy, no appeals. Scientists, soldiers, politicians, traitors, anyone who touched a human child would answer for their crimes. And finally, the Galactic Council would be dissolved. In its place, humanity would establish a new order. The strong would protect the weak. Children of all species would be sacred. Anyone who threatened them would face the full fury of human vengeance. These terms are not negotiable, Park Sue said. You will accept them, or we will continue our war until there is nothing left to govern. General Yunde stepped forward and looked at the assembled representatives. He was an old man with white hair and the eyes of someone who had seen too much death. I want you to understand something, he said softly. We did not want this. Humanity chose peace because we knew what we were capable of. We buried our weapons and our warships because we hoped we would never need them again. He pointed to the holographic images of dead children still floating above the chamber. You forced us to remember. You made us dig up the graves of our ancestors and take up their swords. Every child who died, every parent who cries at night, every family that will never be whole again, that is your fault, not ours. The chamber was silent. Representatives of 200 species sat in shock. Finally understanding what they had awakened, Admiral Kang Tae looked down at his daughter. Yuna stared back at him with eyes that had seen too much darkness for someone so young. Are we safe now, Daddy? She asked. Tae knelt down and held her close. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy watched in silence. Yes, my love, he said. No one will ever hurt you again. I promise. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity would make sure it was never forgotten. 1 year had passed since the day humanity shattered 15,000 years of peace. The galaxy would never be the same. The old Galactic Council was gone. In its place stood the Stellar Accord, a new governing body that operated under human oversight. Every law that involved children now required human approval. Every species that had voted for Article 7742 sent monthly payments to human worlds as part of their reparations. Some species complained quietly among themselves. They whispered that humanity had become tyrants, that the cure was worse than the disease. But none of them complained loudly. None of them dared to resist. They had seen what happened to those who touched human children. They would not make that mistake again. On Mars, Dr. Chonari stood before the sealed vault that held the void engines. She was 74 now, 1 year older, and many years more tired. Her hands shook as she confirmed the final lock. Is it done? Asked Director Han Jin, who stood beside her. Yes, Nari replied. The engines are sealed. No one can activate them without authorization from the President herself and the full Human Council. Good. Jin looked at the vault with mixed feelings. I hope we never need them again. We will not, Nari said firmly. Not because we do not have enemies, but because now everyone knows what we have. The fear will keep them peaceful better than any treaty. She was right. Across the galaxy, governments and militaries studied what had happened to the Venari homeworld. 3 suns simply erased from existence. An entire system plunged into eternal darkness. The Venari who survived had fled to other worlds. Refugees from their own destruction, no species wanted to be next. On Earth, in the city of Seoul, great monuments rose toward the sky. They were made of white stone and carried the names of every child who had died during the seizure. 2,847 names, carved in letters that would last for centuries. President Park Sue visited the monument on the anniversary of the seizure. She walked slowly past the names, reading each one. Some belonged to babies who had barely lived. Others belonged to teenagers who were almost adults. All of them were gone forever. We will teach their stories in every school, she said to the crowd that had gathered. We will speak their names every year on this day. The galaxy will never be allowed to forget what they did, and we will never forget what we lost. Round her, millions of humans bowed their heads in silence. Some cried. Others simply stood, their faces hard with memory. They had paid a terrible price for peace. They would not let that sacrifice be forgotten. Admiral Kongte did not attend the ceremony. He had retired from the military 6 months ago and moved to a quiet colony world with his daughter Yuna. The colony was small. With green fields and clean rivers and a sky full of stars, Yuna still woke up screaming some nights. The memories of her captivity haunted her dreams. She saw the faces of the Nari scientists, felt the cold metal of examination tables, heard the cries of other children in nearby cells. On those nights, Tay held her in his arms and rocked her gently, the way he had when she was a baby. "You are safe now," he whispered. "I am here. No one can hurt you." Slowly, very slowly, she was beginning to believe him. During the day, Yuna played with other children in the fields. She learned to swim in the river. She read books and drew pictures and laughed at jokes. She was healing, piece by piece. Though some wounds would never fully close, Tay watched her from the porch of their small house and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Peace. True peace. Not the false peace of a galaxy pretending to be civilized. Commander Liwu did not retire. Instead, he became the first director of the Stellar Guardians, a new human peacekeeping force. Guardians were stationed on every major world in the galaxy. They watched. They waited. And when someone threatened the innocent, they acted. Wu trained his guardians with a simple philosophy. "We do not protect only human children," he told them. "We protect all children. Every species. Every world. Because what happened to our children could happen to anyone, and we will not let it happen again." The Guardians became legendary. They saved Kishari children from slavers. They protected the Nari orphans from criminals. They stood between the weak and the strong across 1,000 worlds. Some species began to see humans not as conquerors, but as protectors. It would take generations. But the galaxy was slowly beginning to trust again. General Yunde passed away 3 years after the end of the war. He was buried with his ancestor's sword, the one he had raised before 20 million warriors on that day when humanity remembered how to fight, at his funeral. The leaders of 100 worlds came to pay their respects. Some had been his enemies. Some had feared him. All of them honored him. He was a warrior, one Kishari diplomat said, but not the kind we expected. He fought because he had to, not because he wanted to. That is the most dangerous kind of warrior there is. In the schools of every human world, children learned the story of the seizure. They learned about Admiral Tay and his daughter Yuna. They learned about Commander Wu and his rescue missions. They learned about Dr. Nari and her terrible weapons. And they learned the most important lesson of all. Humanity chose peace for 15,000 years, their teachers told them. We chose it because we are strong, not because we are weak. We chose it because we know what we are capable of. And we choose it still. The students listened and understood. They would be the next generation, the ones who would carry humanity forward into the future. They would maintain the peace. They would protect the innocent. And they would remember, in the halls of power across 1,000 worlds, a proverb had taken hold. Diplomats spoke it as warning. Parents taught it to children. Soldiers carved it into their weapons. Do not mistake human kindness for human weakness. They chose peace for 15,000 years. They can choose war in a single heartbeat. The stars had learned their lesson. And for the first time in galactic history, the children of every species slept safely at night. The story was over, but humanity's watch had just begun.